What is happening, people? And welcome back to Park Lane Podcast, episode number 10, for those that are listening to us through their ears. For those that are watching, you can see the handsome faces of myself, Luke, and my co-host, Frankie. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm not too bad, mate. I'm not too bad. It's, we're back again. We've not what I'm assuming isn't going to be a very positive podcast. So, but that aside, it's can't complain. I can't complain, mate. What about you,
mate? Yeah, I'm all good. I called you by your government name then, so apologies about that.
About
it. But yeah, for those that are new,
I've been called worse, mate. I've been called worse.
Have you? Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Right, for those that are new to the channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to hit the like button. If you're watching on Twitter, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, all the rest of it, then make sure you give us a follow and tell us what you think. If you are watching live, get your comments in and let's chat away. We've already got one of our favourite watchers, Holly Agambar's in the building. She said, "Good morning. We have to win. I can't be asked going to Bournemouth and not walking away with all 3 points." Well, yeah. Holly, you're going to have to wait a few minutes until we get onto the Bournemouth chat because we have some bullshit to talk about. And that starts off with Newcastle United. Let's talk about this. The fortress, Wynnie. The place where we don't lose, the place where we play good football, and we absolutely stunk the place out. Talk to me about Newcastle. Give me a kind of overview.
I don't remember. I don't ever remember hearing anyone say that we've played good football there. But Fortress, definitely, yeah. We don't lose. Typically, we don't lose there. What is there to say? Literally, what is there to say? We, like you said, we absolutely stunk the place out. I had a phone call. Because obviously I didn't go to the game. My dad's a season ticket holder. I had a phone call from him at half time, and I was like, why can I hear walking? He was like, "Gone, mate, I've left." So bear in mind, this is someone who's travelled down from Staffordshire on the train. It's probably took him about 2.5, 3 hours to get there. At half time, he has left the building and has gone home. That just epitomises how bad that performance was. It was absolutely horrendous. Yeah, exactly. I know. That's what I said to him. I was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Mate, I can't sit there and watch that any longer."
Wow. That's crazy, isn't it? I was kind of hoping we might hear the dulcet tones of Mr. Dave on this show. But unfortunately, everybody, Spurs have broken him.
He's done. That's it.
Yeah, he's not done. He's not done. He just needs a week off. He's gone fishing. He's gone to relax. He's switched his phone off. So he should be back next week. And hopefully it's a good omen for Spurs and we start getting back to winning ways. But with the Newcastle game, again, we were just so lackluster, weren't we? We were so boring. We were so negative. And, let's not beat around the bush about this because I was on Holly's show on Monday night to talk about it. So I've got a lot of my stress out of the way. But one of the things we talked about the most was Hugo Lloris and, how much of an absolute howler he had in that game. Give me kind of like your thoughts, Wynnie, on Lloris as a whole and kind of, because I want to show him a little bit of respect for the time that he's been at Spurs. Yeah. But a lot of people, remember his poor decisions more than his brilliant ones. And
that's just the life of a goalkeeper. If you look at, let's just put Harry Kane on the plate. I know obviously it's a completely different position, but that's the point of my argument. If Harry Kane goes through on goal, as a Tottenham fan, and probably not even just as a neutral, you're expecting that ball to hit the back of the net. If he misses a sitter, I think about a couple of minutes later, I think we've all forgot about it. But that's just the nature of a goalkeeper. If you make a mistake, usually it ends in a goal to the opposition, doesn't it? So I think their mistakes get highlighted. Now, Hugo Lloris, when we signed him, one of his criticisms was, I think it was like his aerial prowess as such. So the ball would come into the box. He'd be going to catch things that he didn't need to go and catch. And then he kind of ironed those mistakes out of his game. and we're thinking, okay, we've got like the complete keeper here. And then we started in like, the Pochettino era where he wanted to start playing out from the back. And we look the ball's at Lloris's feet, and I can see in his eyes he's not got a clue what to do with it. He's just not got a clue. So it's almost as if he's like going through stages of identifying weaknesses. So first of all, it was, like I said, it was his aerial ability. Then it was playing out of his feet. I mean, he's still not much better at it now. And now it's just his decision making. I mean, we'll get on to obviously the midweek game as well, where there was a point where I was absolutely shitting my pants. But yeah, it just seems to be making the wrong. I don't mind having a keeper that is like a sweeper keeper. I don't mind having someone that stays on the edge of their box. Ideally, that's where I want him to be. But he just needs to work out in his head when to go for a ball and when to not go for a ball. And like I say, in midweek, there was a prime example of that.
No, definitely. And, I was going to touch on both of those games, actually, to do with Lloris, because, as you say, the one point in the Newcastle game, again, Eric Dyer, since ever he got called up to the England squad, I have absolutely no idea what's happened to him because he's gone 10 paces backwards.
He's absolutely...
And, for the first goal, he allows a ball to go over the top, and Lloris comes out to try and get the ball. Now, I'm unsure whether if he stays at the edge of his box, if eventually the ball comes to him. But instead he runs out of the box, and rather than kind of clearing it, rather than doing anything, he kind of like knees the ball into the air.
He just does nothing. That's what he did.
And then does his brilliant, best Sadio Mane, Mo Salah-esque dive to try and claim, that,
Do you think it was a foul?
No, I don't think it was a foul. Now, the one thing I don't like about it is the Callum Wilson arm that comes across when you watch it over and over and over again in slow motion.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, as a football fan, rather than just like a Spurs fan, that's not enough for it to be a foul. I can see them given, but when we look at, we'll talk about VAR a lot more, later on, but when you look at some of the VAR decisions, and you look at how much each decision is scrutinized, and then you look at, actually, do you know what? If I look at that in 10 different slow-mos and different angles, if I focus on Callum Wilson more than I focus on where the goalkeeper is and so on, then you can make an argument for it to be a foul.
Absolutely.
But do I think it's a foul? No chance in a million years. Do you get what I'm saying, though?
But, mate, do you know what? I play football on a Sunday. I know it's only a Sunday and it's whatever. But if you knock the ball past someone and you are impeded, it's deemed as obstruction. Now, if I would like to see if that was, let's say, if it was Eric Dyer who has knocked the ball past Callum Wilson and has been blocked off, I'm probably about 90% sure the referee blows up for a free kick. Now, I don't know if it's because he thinks that the keeper shouldn't be where he is. It's like
that should be irrelevant, though, right?
It should, 100%. It should. But I mean, do you know what? I don't. There's a lot of criticism about referees at the minute, and I just think the referees in the Premier League at the minute are just absolutely honking. I don't know what it is, but they are. I think that maybe there's a couple I haven't heard of, so maybe they've promoted a couple from the Championship League to League 1 to League 2, whatever. But maybe they need time to bed in because we've had some absolutely stinking referees as of late. But I don't want to see it as a free kick, but I think anywhere else on the pitch with another player, and I think it is a free kick. But
so do you think it's a foul?
This is the problem. I don't think it's a foul, but I think no. Do you know what? I do think it's a foul because if they we want consistency with referees. And I think if that's, like I said, if that's elsewhere on the pitch with a different player, I think the referee in the back of his head is thinking it's a free kick. Okay,
fair enough. Let's move on to the second Lloris mistake then, which, funnily enough, actually, do you know what? I'm going to give Callum Wilson props because, this obviously is a Spurs podcast, but at the same time, I want to give people respect. And
of course.
I do highly rate Callum Wilson. If it hadn't been for so many injuries that he has and everything else, I think he could be a top quality striker.
We were linked with him, wasn't we? We were linked with him before he went to Newcastle. So
yeah, But the composure that he has to then control the ball and chip it over. I think Eric Dyer should continue his run.
100%. Yeah, I was going to point that out.
If he continues his run, he has more of a chance of trying to stop it. But anyway, you can't take away from the finish. You can't take away from the goal. So, then it goes from bad to worse for Lloris. I think that, I think that he was bad, but I don't think this was all his fault for this goal. A chip ball out to the wing is what we do a lot.
Yeah, of course.
The ball comes to the keeper, he chips it out to the wing and so on.
Yeah.
When Spurs were a lot better, when he or Eric Dyer or Christian Romero would power a ball through the centre, where our wing backs would go out wide and then the ball would go through the centre and then someone would spin off and so on. We seem to have changed that at the moment. It seems to just be chipping it out to the wings. And, of course, it isn't good enough. It gets intercepted. And then Almiron, who's in absolute fire, Lionel Messi-esque ever since Jack Grealish abused him. And he just runs past everyone and slots it into the back of the net. But I saw a lot of people completely blaming Lloris for that. And, it does start with him, and his chip ball out. But you've also got to remember the fact that Sessegnon doesn't do well enough for the header. Longley doesn't do well enough when Almiron runs at him. And again, Spurs end up 2-0 down in the first half.
If I'm honest, with that scenario, I put Lloris probably bottom of the list for blame there, because, like you said, it is what we do. We either play it out to, our centre backs come either side for a goal kick, and then the centre backs play out from there. I think what it is as well, I think teams are setting up very well against us. They know the way we play and the way we ping it out to the wing backs, and I think they're just blocking those options off, which is forcing us to go to the centre backs or to go even further and go up to Harry Kane. But I do think in that scenario, I think Sessegnon has to be stronger. And this isn't the first time we've said that. There was another goal recently where he was far too weak. So Sessegnon needs to be stronger. If you can't get a full header on it, just get something on it. Just stop them from winning the first ball. Like we said, Longley, far too weak. He let Almiron just breeze past him. And then obviously what happens when they go through on goal. It's a good finish. Don't get me wrong. It's a good finish. And, Lloris could maybe have done better, but I think, we have to give plaudits. It was a good finish. We're talking about someone who is on fire, like you said. So we have to expect him to go through and score. If he didn't, then he'd probably, the Newcastle fans would be slating him. But I think Lloris is probably bottom of the list for blame there for me. But, there still has to be some, I suppose, because it was an aimless ball. But I think for that scenario, he's bottom of my list for blame anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's easy to spot that one of Lloris's biggest problems or faults is his kicking, why do we continue to allow him to kick?
And again, I think this is what happening. I think teams are playing to us, putting their systems so that we have to play it, and Lloris is forced to play it to our wing backs, knowing that that's where they can get at us. I think that's what it is.
I'd like to see that system work next season with Udogie, because he's a bit taller. Being over 6 foot, and he looks stronger, and you would hope that he would win a ball like that. But I'm
really excited to see him. I've watched.
Don't start this, because I want to say it, but I don't want to say it because I know what it's like. Spurs sign someone, send them back on loan, and then they're absolute dog shit when they come to us.
Yeah, but I mean, how many players have we done that for, and it's not worked, or it's worked? I mean, obviously we bought Dele Alli, and he stayed where he was, and then he came over and was phenomenal. Yeah. But I mean, again, it's obviously the transition of league from Serie A to the Premier League. We look at Ndombele. He's gone to Serie A and is absolutely storming it. So that, and in the Premier League, he looked like he couldn't even make a 2-yard pass. So there is obviously differences in the league, but still watching him, he looks a huge talent. Now, obviously, we can get excited because we're looking at a player. We're looking at a player, and we're physically watching him, and we're going, he looks the bollocks. So if he can make that transition to the Premier League, and I don't see why he can't, because what he's doing is what the Premier League will still allow him to do. Little jinks in between and 1-2s and getting crosses in. So there's no reason why he can't do that in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, Spurs end up scoring.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you start thinking, okay, maybe here comes the turnaround. We can get a draw out of this. But again, it was just so slow. I remember 89th minute, we were still passing the ball back to the keeper, passing it between, centre-backs, back to the keeper. When we need to be getting the ball up the pitch. I think Newcastle set up well. I think that they were clever. I think that, their time wasting, the ability to, sit deep for later periods of the game and know that we struggle to break them down. But again, like the Spurs players need to do a hell of a lot better, don't they? Because losing...
I think this is another thing that annoys me with the referees. So obviously, and I wouldn't. If it was Hugo Lloris doing it, I'd be happy. But the time wasting from Nick Pope was absolutely ridiculous. Now there was a stat out there somewhere that how long the ball was in play compared to a normal game, and I think it was in play the least. In the Premier League era, so to speak. It's probably not as drastic as that, but I know it was a very, very shocking stat. Now, again, if I'm a referee and the keeper takes too long, I book him. Yeah, and if he does it again, why is he not having a second yellow and a red? If he's making the same offence, this is what's annoying me is the consistency. They're booking people for time wasting, but then when they do it again, they're not following it up again, and I don't know what that is. But you're on mute, mate.
One of the referees and the officials' kind of thoughts to this season was that the ball would be in play a lot more, that they wanted the game to have a lot more minutes where the ball is actually in play. And yet we saw it against Everton. We saw it against Newcastle. Yeah. And Newcastle were punished against Liverpool. There were 7 minutes added on time. Against Spurs, there was only 5. But you even see the likes of Callum Wilson and Bruno Guimaraes, who didn't go off at the right place, didn't run off when they were subbed off, both on yellow cards, and yet neither were punished for
That's what I'm saying. It annoys me. I will say I fully expected when we scored. I fully expected us to go on and win that game. If I'm honest, like I said, at home, the fortress, which is no longer a fortress. But I fully expected us to turn it around. But we just lacked ideas. And you know what? I think we are seeing now a massive effect from not signing a creative player, and I think that's what it comes down to. We've got, obviously, how I feel about Bentancur. Absolutely, he could probably do that job. Maybe not as good as like an Eriksen or something. I know we talk about Eriksen because we had him, but I just think, like I said, we just lacked creativity, and that's been transparent through most of the games we've played this season. We just don't seem to have that player that can, receive the ball, turn on a sixpence, and then play a ball through the lines to maybe a wing back or something. We just don't have that player.
Yeah, definitely. And the problem with that 3, in my opinion, in midfield, we played, for those that don't remember, we played with Skip, Bentancur, Bissouma, if I remember rightly. And both of those 3 players, in my opinion, all 3 are very similar. Now, people will say, they all play slightly different midfield positions. But their mindset is all the same. It's all defensive-minded mindset. You could say that Bissouma's box-to-box. You could say that Bentancur is a bit more free-roaming. But at the same time, they all have the same mindset. And that is contain. And so when you have Son, who's playing out of position as a striker, and Harry Kane, who in the end started actually coming a lot deeper to pick the ball up to say, do you know what? We need to get this ball forward. It really does limit our options. So, I just think it was a bad day. Someone that I know very close to me is a Newcastle fan. So, again, it was an absolute travesty. But it is what it is. And we have to move on.
Do you know what? We're going through a bad patch. And like I've said previously, every team goes through it. Chelsea have been through it this season. Liverpool have definitely been through it this season. Man United, before Ten Hag went through it. we have to expect to go through it as well. And it's as simple as that. That's what we're doing. We are going through a bad patch, and all we need to do now is just ride it out until the our luck changes. It may be something like we get a VAR decision in the last minute that goes our way.
I feel like it's
got to change at some point, and hopefully it'll be today.
But the thing is, mate, is that you say that we're going through a bad patch now.
Yeah.
A lot of Spurs fans that could be watching or listening to this would say, well, actually, we've been playing shit all season. And this is just, now, finally, our time where we're actually showing that, we are playing badly this season.
Whilst I agree, though, I also have to disagree because I get I don't think we've been playing shit. I think we have been playing, it may not be the prettiest football, but I know I've said it before, and I probably sound like a broken record. It must be effective because of where we are sitting in the league. Do you know what I mean? You can't take away from the fact that we are sitting third in the league. I know we haven't been playing Tottenham-esque football, the quick changes, quick passes and all that stuff. But I know it's a different era of football. We've got Conte now. And if I'm going to be honest now, if the way we play, if we have a whole season of it, week in, week out, playing this negative football, as some will call it, but we end up the season winning a Carabao Cup, I'm going to be satisfied. I'm going to be happy.
I do get you. Now, it's interesting you talk about Conte because I want to now move on to the midweek game, which you were there. And for those of you, shameless plug, for those of you who have not seen it, we have a matchday vlog from our very own Wynnie, who was at the game on Wednesday night, took the trip down from Staffordshire all the way to watch Champions League football at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah. First of all, Wynnie, tell me about the atmosphere. Tell me about the tifo, because we've seen Arsenal's poor display at creating a tifo at their ground. But wow, it looks good, doesn't it?
Absolute goosebumps, mate. I've seen the tifo before, and I was actually part of this tifo. So I was sat in the south stand. I was part of the cockerel in the middle. So it's a good thing to be part of. So I was the cock. So you can't see it in the ground because obviously I'm part of it. But when you see it on Twitter afterwards, it is just phenomenal. So atmosphere, it was weird because it was probably the best atmosphere that I've been part of. At Spurs, I've been to a couple of games this season. I've been to some last season as well. And there was, I think it was like optimism. I think the fans, we thought that we were going to go out and win 3 or 4-0. I know that obviously wasn't the case, but yeah, so that like even down to I went to the pub before the game and had a couple of drinks. I know the atmosphere in the pubs is always different to the stadium because, but it was just rocking and everyone was just so jubilant. It was almost like I went to watch the Champions League final at the stadium. So obviously I wasn't fortunate to get tickets and stuff. So and it was almost like that it was like a party atmosphere. It was very weird. I mean that soon changed in the stadium once the game kicked off. But yeah, pre-game it was a very, very good atmosphere.
Okay, and then so going into the game, we switched it back to our favoured formation.
Yeah.
Of 5-2-3. Lucas Moura came in.
It was needed as well.
Yeah, Matt Doherty came in. And again, we started shocking.
Yeah.
Giving the ball away, allowing them time on the ball, allowing Marcus Edwards to run riot. And, it's a good job Dave's not here because he would blame Hugo Lloris for the first goal. But again, I think that it's very similar, as you say, to a striker missing a one-on-one opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Apart from it's a complete negative. If he misses a one-on-one, he gets another chance. If a keeper misses a shot, then he gets blamed. But again, there needs to be more pressure in midfield. There needs to be someone stepping out of defence because Marcus Edwards shrugs off a couple of players, P-rolls it into the far corner, and we end up 1-0 down.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts at that point, being in the stadium, seeing us 1-0 down? And I was actually surprised about his reaction and how much he celebrated.
I know, yeah, that was there was a few choice words around me. Let me put it that way. When he did that celebration, I wasn't one of them, but there was my dad probably was. But yeah, so it was, again, I think we start like the first 5 minutes of every game. I think, I don't think we start terrible from the first second. I think we kind of look as though we're going to build into something for the first 5-10 minutes. And then it just seems to drop for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, why we can't maintain it. But yeah, so the Marcus Edwards goal, I mean, I spoke about it in the vlog. And I mean, I think it's time now, especially someone like when we've got people like Romero in the team who is not shy at jumping into a tackle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You just stop letting them. Marcus Edwards has carried the ball, I don't know, probably 20, 25 yards. He's carried the ball to the edge of our box, and it was a good finish. And I don't think Lloris could have done much. I was behind that goal, and the opposite side, the opposite corner of the goal where the actual goal went in. And it looked a bit suspect for me. But when I've watched it back, it was right in the corner. So I think it's a very good finish. Again, we have to give him credit. It was a good finish. But we've just got to stop letting people run at our goal, because it's starting to cost us now.
Sounds simple, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's starting to cost us. At first, I mean, at the first couple of games of the season in Champions League, we were conceding goals in the same manner, but they were absolute worldies. Now they're 1 in a million. You can account for them, but now people are traveling with the ball, so up to our edge of our box, and are scoring goals that can be avoided. And I think it's now starting to become an issue, and we need to do something about it. And like I said, Romero, who missed one game, is back in the team. He's not scared of flying into a tackle. Just just fly in, chuck your body in front of it.
Yeah, definitely. Or bring the player down. I know it's early on, but I still think that we have that opportunity and that ability to be able to break. It's either a yellow card or a goal.
I don't think it's a yellow card either. If he's,
it's Champions League. You saw we got yellow carded for an amazing tackle that he absolutely smashed.
To be fair, Champions League is different. But I mean, if someone's running towards the goal and you're not goal side and you bring them down, that's a yellow card. But I think if you're goal side and you're just pressing someone and you put a tackle in, I think I'd be hard pressed to think that's going to be a yellow card. But like you say, Champions League referees are a completely different breed.
Yeah. Now I want to talk very quickly about Lucas Moura. So, for those that know me, know that I do like Lucas Moura. I do have a soft spot for him. Now, it's not just because of his Champions League heroics and everything else, but I just think that he always seems happy, always seems to be wanting to get involved. But his ability now in this Spurs team is limited, and I want to talk about a glorious opportunity that he had, and the keeper managed to save it. It was early on; he got played over the top, and he went to take it round the keeper. And it's just that confidence, just that sharpness, just that match freshness that let him down. But this seems to be happening a lot, because Son had a good chance against Newcastle 1-on-1 and missed, hit the keeper. This time Lucas tries to go round the keeper. Yeah. The keeper gets his hand on it. He didn't have a great game, but there's something that Conte still sees in him, because he started him at right winger, and then he took him back and played him as a right wing back at times. And do you know what? When that change happened, it actually did help us, because we were attacking, because we were going forward. And, rather than talking about Spurs as a whole, I just wanted to talk about his influence on that game, because he wasn't great, but it was nice to see him back in a Spurs shirt. What do you think?
Yeah, like yourself, I am a huge Lucas Moura fan. I mean, when we signed him, I was excited because I knew he wasn't going to be the player that he used to be, but his PSG days, he was, I don't want to make similarities, but some of his goals and his runs were Messi-esque, because they were. He would jink in between players, his agility, everything on the ball was phenomenal. So when we signed him, and those kind of feelings didn't go away. So he's, like you say, he's a very lovable character. He's always happy. He's always smiling. He always gives 100%. And those are the kind of players that get remembered. Now, I don't think he's the same player since his injury, whether his injury is affecting him or whether, like you say, it's match sharpness, match fitness. But I think he actually hindered us midweek. He really did, and I don't like to say that, because he's one of my favourite players. Not only for like you say, for Ajax, but I think like what he brings to the team is good. And what he used to do is he used to pick the ball up in like that number 10 area where we are lacking at the moment. He used to pick the ball up there. He'd make one jink, and then he'd do what he used to do when he was at PSG, and he used to jink in between players, and then he'd slot someone in through the lines, and there just doesn't seem to be the confidence to do that now. Hopefully, it's just a match sharpness thing, and the more games that he gets, maybe that comes back, and we get the player back that we love. But yeah, I think his performance on Wednesday it was shocking. It really, really was. There was just no like you say, no confidence. There was no. It just didn't look like he knew what to do, and I don't like to see that. But I think, like I say, he actually was a hindrance more than a help.
Yeah. So after half time, I thought the Spurs would come out, with a bit more fire in their bellies.
We all did, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. It looked like Basuma might be coming on. He didn't.
Yeah. No.
And Conte wanted to give it a little bit more time, and eventually, finally, Spurs started kicking in. And we played how we should have been playing for a lot of this season. We played how we play best.
Yeah.
And we played well. I was very impressed from like the 65th onwards, onwards. And we pressed and we fought and we tried and we pushed and we pushed and we pushed. The only negative was our ability from corners. We had a lot of corners. And we tried the same corner. The fucking set piece coach has got 3,000 routines, and every one of this game was near post.
And we just do the same shit over and over again. We can't most of the time. We can't even beat the first man. And I think and to be fair, we did come close with it. I think it's one where we whip it to the front post. Eric Dyer runs on and flicks it to the back post. Yeah. We scored against the Newcastle goal was like that. We've scored so many goals like that this season. I think Eric Dyer has scored one. I can't remember who it was against. It might have been at home to someone. We see that seems to be our routine. Now, I don't mind it, but just change it up every like you said. This guy's got so many routines, and we just keep doing the same one. It's like FIFA. It's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, definitely, mate. But look, we eventually got our goal, and Bentancur scored. And do you know what?
Came from the corner, ironically.
Yeah. And finally, VAR did its job. And the goalkeeper didn't get, the decision their way, because when it went in, the keeper was on the floor. Yeah. I thought to myself, right, here we go. It's going to be ruled out, and the keeper will get the decision. But when you saw it on the replay, there was no evidence that the keeper had attempted to jump.
And you could see that I was right behind that as well. And you could see I was celebrating because I if that had been called off, then there'd have been trouble, because you could see from my angle there was nothing wrong with that. So. Yeah, like you say, we just from that moment on, we looked like we actually gave a shit, and I don't get why it takes us so long to do that. It either takes an opposition goal to kick us in, or it takes us till the 75th, 80th minute till we go, should we start playing football now? It baffles me.
It could be something to do with, I read these comments about Antonio Conte saying that that Spurs are going to kick on the second half of the season after the World Cup, and they're going to conserve their energy. And it could be this whole energy conservation thing, but
it could be.
But then why were we beasted in pre-season? Why were players falling over in Korea? Because of how much they've been running, if they're only just going to conserve their energy for 70 minutes and then play for 20. Now, Eric Dyer has had a shocker the last few weeks, and he nearly made up for it on about 5 occasions.
He had too many chances.
So many, didn't he, to score? So many point blank headers, headers that go wide. Yeah. And you started to think that it wasn't going to be our day.
Yes.
And then do you know what? I'm not going to go to that. I'm not going to go to that. You're going to talk about your favourite player, Brian Hill, because he came on and, I'm going to be honest, he didn't do a lot, but what he did, it looked fresh, it looked exciting, it looked like he had another thought in his brain rather than, just doing, okay, we're running down the wing, we're passing it backwards, we're running down the wing, he cut inside, he tried to put crosses in, he showed a bit of trickery, and there was one stage where Emerson Royale tried a no-look pass.
I knew this was going to come up.
That you thought, do you know what? He's in here. and it's just a cut back to Harry Kane, and we score. But he looked excited, didn't he? Now I don't think he starts today. I don't, but I would love it.
He was a breath of fresh air, mate. It's exactly what we needed. We're very stale at the moment. We need someone to come in and shake it up, and I think that's exactly what he done. And like I said in the video, maybe it's because the Champions League is the occasion to put him in, because obviously we've seen him on his loan spell at Valencia. They wanted him to stay permanently because he was unreal. And that's no shock. So when we're playing against these European teams who aren't as ruthless and as tough as the Premier League teams are, there's no surprise that he flourished. Now, I would love him to start today. Again, I don't think he does. But like you say, there was one moment where he just showed urgency. And I think that's what we're lacking. He's shown a mass amount of urgency. Like, he wanted to get the ball and he wanted to get his first thought. What we were doing all game is we were getting it to Perisic and to Doherty. And if there wasn't anything on, they were just going straight back to the centre-back, which I don't mind keeping the ball. I know I don't want them to just aimlessly kick it out of play, but Bryan Hill's first thought was, right, let's get in that box and let's create a chance, because that's what we needed. So, I mean, Emerson Royale, if Conte is as ruthless as his reputation is, that guy should never play for us again, because there's no excuse for that in a game which we do need to win, because now we're left having to go to Marseille, which is notoriously difficult, and get a result. So in a game where we need to win, we're on the front foot. You try a no-look pass that goes straight out of play. There's no way he should play for us again. But do we know he's going to be in the starting lineup today? Yes, we do.
Exactly, mate. I know. And do you know what? We've given Antonio Conte a lot of flack on this show, and we will continue to do that whilst
when it's deserved, of course.
Imbecile. But finally, in this game, he made positive substitutions and substitutions that affected the game.
100%.
I'm talking about, the one that stands out most to me was Lucas Moura being pulled to right wing back, because we saw it in pre-season. I mean, I saw it when I was at the Rangers game. He brought him on and he played in that position, and I was excited. I was a bit nervous because I thought, I know what his defensive ability is like. But do you know what? It's a little bit like, for those that play FIFA, right? And I hate FIFA at the moment. But anyway, those that play FIFA, right? You have the ability to modify player positions. And in previous FIFAs, you had the ability to change pretty much anyone to wherever you liked.
Of course.
And, you would make that decision where you would make, do you know what? A right winger, I'll make him a right wing back. And now I just have shitloads of pace. And it'll be fine. And that's kind of the idea, I think, with Conte. And because Sessegnon, I think at that time, was about to come on, and then he pulled him away.
Changed his mind,
Yeah. And, he left kind of Bryan Hill and Lucas Moura on that side. And I felt like it gave us the ability to win the ball back high and push on high up. Especially with our wing backs do overlapping runs and things like that. When you've got two attackers effectively playing on that side.
It was a good balance.
Yeah. And, it went well. Then comes the moment in the last kick of the game. So
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it, mate. We're
going to talk about it regardless. So, so now I watch. I don't know how to explain it without getting banned. But anyway, I watch my football on IPTV, right? I pay for a service and I watch it do that. So I'm always slightly behind. I never look at my phone really during the game because our channel has Spurs notifications on Twitter and things like that. But my phone was going mad in my pocket, and it kind of gives me a little bit of a buzz at that point. I'm either thinking,
I get that.
This has not gone well, or I'm thinking something's going to happen here. So I ignored it, and the ball comes in, comes off Emerson Royale, takes a deflection, and then ends up at Harry Kane, who sweeps it into the back of the net as the last kick of the game to send us through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. And I was celebrating. I was celebrating a lot in my house.
Yes.
And then a thought came through my brain. One of those, I didn't think it was offside. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but there was a thought in my brain. And I thought, hang on a minute, I'm forgetting about VAR. And then 4.5 minutes later, after every angle had been scrutinised, had been looked at, had been analysed, they'd drawn lines, they'd done everything possible to rule a goal out.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly what happens.
So,
devastation.
I have to be completely honest here. So, me and my dad at about,
honestly, don't even start this. I'm not having this.
Honestly, so I know. So it's something that we have done before, but yeah. So about 92nd minute, I know there was pressure, but we were like, do you know what? Let's. It's almost like it's happened to us before. It's almost like a superstition. So if we are on the front foot, if we were on the back foot, it's different. We're like, right, let's just get out of here. But when we're on the front foot and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, because it doesn't. I know we had chances and chances and chances, and when those chances go, it's almost as if you think it's just not going to happen today. So about the 92nd minute, we've looked at each other and gone, let's do it. Come on. So we've stood up and we've gone. Yeah. We've stood up and we've gone. Like I say, people will look at that now and go, what are you doing? But like I say, it's almost like a superstition because it's happened to us before. We've left the stadium and we've scored. So we've just walked down the steps. We've literally just exited the stadium. And we hear this huge roar. So everyone's looking around because we're not the only one. The streets are also filled with Spurs fans that have had the same thought as us. So everyone's just looking around at each other going, what? I was flicking through Twitter. I was constantly refreshing Twitter. And then all of a sudden, they started flooding through saying like, Kane, you beauty. Oh my God. Oh, fucking yes. Can't believe it. And me and my dad have looked at each other and gone, we've done it. It's worked. Like our superstition has worked. So everyone on the streets is just, a jubilant party atmosphere again because we're through to the knockout round of the Champions League. So it's different from obviously yourself watching it on TV. There's a VAR check as soon as they announce it, and you can maybe see a couple of angles. But walking the streets back to the car park, I've just got the beauty of Twitter and what people are saying. So the Spurs account tweeted, prematurely as they have done previously, Kane, with the gif of him celebrating and whatever. So I'm like, okay, this is about a minute and a half after the goal. Then nobody's mentioned anything. Everyone's just putting, oh my God, I can't believe it. We're through. We've done it. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Still nothing. So then, funnily enough, there was people walking the streets all talking to each other going, have they VAR'd it yet? Have they VAR'd it yet? And it was the first thing on everyone's minds. They've gone, have they VAR'd it? And I'm talking to a couple of people going, it doesn't look like they are VARing it. And then someone's walked by and they've got this radio like stuck to their neck listening to it. And all I heard was the commentator go, is it a potential offside? And literally my heart just sunk. So I didn't know this was happening. And then I've refreshed Twitter a couple more times and I've seen someone put, don't you fucking dare. And I've gone, they're VAR in this. And then, like you say, a long 4.5 minutes later, the inevitable happened.
Have you had a chance to look at it? Because I'm going to be honest with you, right? If we're going by the letter of the law, okay, and people will, get on my back for this. If we go by the letter of the law, I can understand how they have ruled it out, right? Yeah. I can understand the fact that, part of his toenail is offside. Yeah. And if they're going by that, then...
Which they have done.
Then that is fair enough. But the magnitude of the football match, the amount of time that it took...
Yeah.
Bear in mind, we talked about earlier how officials want to keep the ball in play and want to make the game faster and continue. They made every single opportunity to find a way to rule the goal out. Now, the letter of the law states that VAR should get involved and overturn a decision if that it is a clear and obvious error. Does it take 4.5 minutes to realise that it's clear and obvious? Because to me, clear and obvious is immediate.
Of course it is. And I said this in the video, if a decision takes that long, this is the problem with VAR. Now, I I'm going to be honest. I am for VAR. I am, because there's been many of times Pedro Mendes at Old Trafford. There's been many of times where we have been on the wrong end of a decision that VAR would have overturned. So it's been in our favour as well. Man City in the Champions League last minute, Sergio Aguero. Oh no, was it Sterling? Wasn't it, or was it Aguero?
Yeah, and then before that was Fernando Llorente.
Yeah. So it has been in our favour, but the whole point of VAR, like you say, is to eliminate the clear and obvious errors which the referee is making. Now, the referee is only human. We have to expect human error, and this is the point of this system. But I feel like they do. I'm pretty sure they VAR every goal. They just don't talk about it because they have to VAR it in case there's something a bit further back. It's taking away. There's going to be a point. I heard someone say on the radio. There's going to be a point in like 10 years' time where someone scores a goal and nobody celebrates. Like in a stadium, the whole point of being in a stadium is exactly what we would, or what happened when Kane scored. Limbs, absolute limbs. There was people diving over seats. It was, such. I mean, I obviously I wasn't there, but I'm talking about when you see it on Twitter and you see celebrations, because it's been all over Twitter. The one where Bentancur just stands there like, oh my God, we've actually done it kind of moment. So you see the limbs, and that's the whole point, of that moment where, and the thing is, people go to football to get away from, normal life and stuff like that. And it's just taking the fun away from it. You physically can't celebrate anymore. And I still do, but like you say, it's just draining football, and that's what it's doing.
Definitely. And as I said to you, my point on it is very clear. If they want to go down that line of, toenails are offside, then that's fine. But I thought they'd change that. I thought that they were allowing. Yeah.
What I will throw in the mix, is, and I'm sure everyone has heard about it, is the ball going backwards.
Apparently, that's not a rule if the player is in front of the ball.
I honestly saw on Twitter, there was like an ex-pro. It was quite. I can't remember the exact person, but it was quite a famous ex-professional footballer who tweeted saying, "I've spent my whole career thinking that if the ball goes backwards, that I can't be offside. So why all of a sudden has it changed?" Now I saw. I think it was on. It might have been BT. I think it was Sky Sports. It was one of these channels that have said it's not like a rule change, but it's almost like an unwritten rule that nobody kind of knows about. And it's that the ball, the direction the ball travels is irrelevant when it comes to it. But it's not. Like if the ball goes backwards, it's you see it when someone runs down the wing and they square it across the box to a player and they tap it in. The first thing they look for is if the ball has gone backwards. That's the first thing they look for. If the ball has gone backwards, then they're not offside. So it just seems to be. I mean, we've been on the end now. We've been on the wrong end of all these law changes. So the Sissoko handball in the Champions League final, they've looked at that and gone, that's probably a bit harsh.
Same VAR, apparently.
Yeah, so they've literally looked at that and gone, okay, so that's a handball to the rule today, but I think it's probably a bit harsh. We'll change it after this game. And then the Eric Dyer against Newcastle, when they've headed it against his hand, he had nothing to do with it, but they give the penalty and they scored. They looked at that and gone, oh, that's a bit harsh. That is. We'll change it after this game. And we just seem to be on the end of all these laws and rule changes. But it's like we're guinea pigs. They wait for it to happen to Spurs and then go, don't like that. We'll change that now. And it just seems to be what it is. But I mean, we know we're still in our hands. Champions League. We know we need to go out to Marseille and not lose. So we just go from there now, and we just hope now we can have a good performance today, take that into Tuesday, and have a good performance out in Marseille.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's a great segue into the final section of today's show. So we want to talk about today's game away at Bournemouth, 3 p.m. kickoff.
I know, it's weird.
I know, yeah, exactly. I know I've got loads of things to do today, but I'll be back home for 3 o'clock kickoff.
That's what we like to hear.
Exactly. But what are your kind of brief thoughts on the lead up to the game? So I'll kind of like talk about both teams slightly now. So Bournemouth currently sit 14th in the Premier League. Okay. They have a goal difference of -15.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 goals scored, 25 goals conceded in I think it's 11 or 12 games. 12 games that they've played. That says to me they concede goals. That says to me that there are goals to be scored. They score. What are we looking at? Just under one every game. And so, I'm not expecting an easy game, but this is a championship side. This is a side who sacked their manager early on in the season. This is a side that are there to be beaten. And this is a side that Spurs players and fans should be excited and should have no doubt in any part of their cranium that we should win this game. What are your thoughts?
I'm one of those people. So we're on the back of 3 bad performances. However, I'm like you say, I'm excited. I'm excited at the prospect of us winning a game today because I feel like you said, it's a game we should win. So, yes, obviously they sacked some people will say Bournemouth are coming into it on form or some kind of upwards form. But I think that's just natural. That happens to every team. The new manager bounce, even though he's not, effectively a fully appointed manager. He's obviously just a caretaker or interim, whatever you want to call it. But there is always a new manager bounce. Now, they've had that now for quite some time. So I think they have now leveled out and are probably going to go back down again. So on a downward spiral, obviously not drastic, probably getting battered every week. But I think their performances and their results will decline. I think they've had their new manager bounce. So, yes, I'm looking at this now. It's almost as if we're in different paths. So it's almost as if like they're kind of on like a downward trajectory where we should now be on an upward trajectory because we've had the shit performances and we need to be on the way up. They've had their good performances and they need to be on the way down. So I think we're kind of meeting in the middle of that trajectory. So yes, I think we will win. I'm going to say no. No, I am, only because...
Fucking hell, you're the most fucking pessimistic fan I've ever met in my entire life.
No. Only because I've looked at our last 3 performances. If we play like we have done the last 3 games, I don't think we will win. There is still a part of me, and I will say there is still the Tottenham fan inside of me that's thinking we're going to go there. Harry Kane's going to score a hat-trick, and Son's probably going to get a couple, and we're going to win 5-0. But I have to be real and look at our performances as of late that have been terrible. And I have to expect, not expect, but there's just a part of me that is a little bit concerned. But on a whole, I do think that we will go there and hopefully get a result.
Fair enough. Right, before we get into the score predictions, those of you that are watching, stick your score predictions in the comment section and we will read them out. A couple of kind of points I want to make. Do we play 3 up top, 2 up top? What's your thoughts on that?
I think he goes. I think he goes Lucas Moura again.
So you think we play 3 up top?
Yeah, I think we play 3 up top, and I think he goes Lucas Moura. He's even said something positive about Bryan Gil, which you've never heard from Conte. He came out and almost likened him to Bernardo Silva. Of Man City, of ability-wise, but he's just, Bernardo Silva's just a bit more physical and has got a bit more strength in him. So I think we do go 3 up top, but it'll be Lucas Moura.
And do you think that Doherty or Emerson Royale play at right wing back? Because I'm not even going to mention Spence.
I think we go Sessegnon and Emerson Royale. That'll be our 2 wing backs today.
Okay, and lastly, does Ben Davies play?
No, he doesn't. No. So this is the thing, and it's just what Conte does. He rotates. So everyone's saying the Champions League game midweek. Why is Ben Davies starting? He shouldn't be. And I agree with that. But Longley played against Newcastle. It's very rare that you'll see the same person that's part of a. I mean, look at Eric Dyer. He's not part of a rotation. Romero is not part of a rotation. But the left centre back is part of a rotation. And what happens is he plays one week, and then one game, then the next one will come in. So on the basis of that, I think Longley comes in, but he should come in because Ben Davies is garbage.
Right. And on that note, I will start us off with our score predictions. I think you're spot on with what you've said. I would agree with all those positions. I asked you, though, the questions for a reason, because obviously I have an answer as well. I would say, I agree with you. I think rotation is something that Conte does. And I think that, you saw Doherty play midweek, and you saw Perisic play midweek, and Ben Davies, and so on. So looks like the alternatives will come in. So I'm going to start us off. I don't see us. I really don't see us conceding. I really don't see us conceding today. 2-0 Tottenham win.
2-0 Tottenham.
2-0 Tottenham. Now, Here he is, the optimist as always. Wynnie, what are you going for score?
You know what? Today's the day that I change my mindset. I'm no longer going to be the pessimistic Spurs fan. No, I'm not. I'm fed up with being this pessimistic Spurs fan. So we are going to win today, and we are going to win 3-0.
Oh, 3-0, no goals conceded.
3-0, no goals conceded. Romero's going to play. Dyer's going to play. Longley's going to play. We've got our three centre-backs, our three best centre-backs are going to play.
Yeah.
We can discount Royale. I think we'll drag him through the performance. He might have a good game. He definitely won't have a good game, but you never know. I think we just, again, I've said this for the last two pods. I think we're going to click. We have to. I'm going to be right.
If you say it enough, it might come true.
Exactly. That's the thought, mate. We're going to click at some point. But no, I'm not going to be the pessimistic Spurs fan anymore. I think we're going to play well. We're going to be solid at the back. And I think Sonny and Kane and Lucas Moura will be part of it. And I think Lucas Moura likes playing against Bournemouth as well. I think he scored. I mean, didn't he score a hat-trick? Was it against Bournemouth where he scored a hat-trick at home?
Quite possibly.
I think it was when he got his son.
I can't remember yesterday, mate, let alone.
Yeah, after the game, I think it was that game when he got his son on the pitch and all the Spurs fans were happy. So I think he likes a game against Bournemouth. So I think that our front three will click, and I think we will be too much for them. So yes, we will win 3-0.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. And
is that better? Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's good. That's good, mate. I like it. And that pretty much rounds us up for today's show. Obviously, we will be back next week. There's a lot of games coming thick and fast. So, don't forget, Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. We are live every single week. So make sure you tune in. We will obviously be talking about the Bournemouth game. We'll talk about the Marseille game and the upcoming fixture at the weekend. So, Frankie, before we do finish, if everyone's like to hear your dulcet tones, if everyone likes to see that beautiful face, how can everybody find more of you?
Wynnie 1991. Obviously, I did the little vlog, the matchday vlog. So it might be something we can potentially look at doing a bit more in the future. Might post some stuff on there. But yeah, if you want to check me out, head to Wynnie 1991 on Twitter, and then let's have a chat.
Perfect. And you can follow me at Luke_Park Lane on Twitter, should you wish to do so. But more importantly, make sure you are getting involved in the channel, whether that is audio, whether that is visual, however suits you. We are trying to suit everybody's needs and requirements. And if there's any changes you want made to this show, please also do let us know. If you're a big avid podcast listener and you want to get involved, DM us on Twitter and get involved. The show's DMs are always open, and we're always open to having new people, new guests. It doesn't have to be experienced. If you want to get involved and you want to talk about Spurs, then please do so. But don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to do all of that good stuff at Park Lane Pod.
Even more so, if you're a rival, I say a rival fan, if, for example, if there's a Bournemouth fan with the upcoming fixture that wants to jump on and, we can have a little debate backwards and forwards about the upcoming fixture. If your team is coming up against Tottenham in the next couple of weeks, then get in touch and come on the show.
Mate, definitely. Absolutely love it. Next week, we should have Dave back, as long as he hasn't had an aneurysm by the time we get to it. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Those that did tune in, I want to thank everybody for their input as always. But we will see you next week, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. for more talk about Spurs. Thank you very much and have a good weekend, everyone.
Go!